everyone, Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you, as always, for listening to our content. But for more in-depth coverage on the Indiana Hoosiers football, basketball, and recruiting news, go to thehoosier.com on 3. Now with On 3 and great national writers like Ari Wasserman, Andy Staples, and Steve Wiltfong for football. Pete Nakos, J.B. Shaw, and Joe Tipton's constantly breaking stories on the basketball side. And the local coverage from Alec, Lasley, Kyler Staley, and Zach Browning. You can catch something new every day at thehoosier.com. Go there. Sign up today.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world,
for the win! Ayler's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU. America. They got a football team now.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop. Oh.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hey, welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios on this Friday, heading out to what looks like to be a nice weekend. It's going to be a warm one, but Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com with us. And again, congratulations, Alec, with an exclusive interview with Alex. What's his last? How you say Alexa's last name?
Ristich.
Alexa Ristich, Indiana's newest basketball player, the Serbian. Alec spoke with him and got the lay of the land and a great piece on thehoosier.com, where you can go sign up for and get a great deal right now. $1 for the first month, 50% off your first year. Get that while it lasts. And let me tell you, that's the place to go to get the latest and the best information. There's so many in articles, whether it's basketball, football, it's incredible. It's hard to keep up with, but lots to going on this weekend. Congratulations on getting that as well. What was your take in your conversation with him, Alec?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, so to kind of give a little bit of a backstory, this, Ristich had the same agent as Zerno, the previous IU commitment, obviously with the previous staff, so nothing related to Darian DeVries and this staff. So
and Zerno has ended up at Rutgers, I believe, right?
Yeah, correct. Yep.
So Indiana will see him.
Yeah, absolutely. So the agent, already had kind of the lay of the land from being on campus, right? So he knew what Bloomington was like. He knew what Indiana was like, what the fan base was like. He was drawn to Indiana to begin with. So it was an easy sell, but this kind of came together all within, I would say, about 72 hours. There was an initial conversation that then kind of pushed into mutual interest, and Indiana's still obviously looking for two spots at that point. Still up in the air on what will happen with Luke Goody and Anthony Leal, so they needed to continue to move forward. But Ristich is a phenomenal shooter. He's good size, can play both on and off the ball, but shot 39% from three this season. In 19, 20 games there. So making about...
That's against some pretty high-level competition.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a top league in Serbia. So you have a lot of really good international talent that comes out of there. He's played with some of the same guys who have now made the jump to the college ranks over the last year and this season. But shot about 40%. He shot about 40% over the course of his professional career over there. But a guy who can play both on and off the ball, has good size, can create his own shot, can shoot off the ball as well too. So, he's a guy that kind of fits exactly what, Indiana wants as a backcourt, which is, versatility, ability to, again, be a scorer and a playmaker, both. And Indiana's going to play numerous ball handlers, that'll be on the floor at all times. So he's going to be able to find his way somewhere. Just a matter of, how frequently he sees the floor. It's probably not something where, he's going to see a lot of minutes as a freshman, but he's a very, very good, player to have kind of in the back end of that rotation if there is an injury, if there is foul trouble, right? Someone who can come in and play some of those spot minutes if need be. But, he accounted for nearly 30% of his team's assists last year as well, and at over a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. So you can see kind of his versatile skill set there with his ability to play both on and off the ball. We're told he's going to be playing in the European Championships this summer, and then will be arriving in Bloomington in late July. But we'll be with the team. We'll practice before they go to Puerto Rico. We'll be with the team in Puerto Rico, and we'll play when they are down there. So he's excited to get to campus. He knows about the brand of Indiana. He knows about what now this system can provide, and more specifically the player development that was told to him by the coaching staff and then by his agent. And it's it's a good match for again what Indiana was trying to fill. Brings a little bit more versatility than what you would have gotten with either Luke Goody or Anthony Leal in terms of what potentially they could be bringing back. So now you kind of turn the page and look to what I would assume is somewhat of a developmental big, which we've talked about numerous times, that they would probably be looking to fill that last roster spot with if things obviously don't go their way, more so with Luke Goody than Anthony Leal.
Yeah, I don't know that they do either way, to be honest with you. I don't see I don't see Anthony Leal getting an extra year. And Luke Goody's is on thin ice because of he played at the end of that season. So we'll see. And even if they got one or both of them, boy, you're out of room almost. Definitely virtually out of minutes on the floor, because you have so many guys that are 1, 2s, or even 3s that I don't know with the additional Riskic. I mean, we're looking at I don't know, half the team is probably a 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at it too, right? A lot of these guys are interchangeable, and you have 3, even 4 spots, right? If you want to stretch Tucker DeVries to the 4, which he'll play at some point, because they're going to go smaller. And again, this is not to beat a dead horse, right? But this is an entirely different system than what we've seen in the past. So, you're going to have to get used to multiple guards on the floor. And I think that's the best way to win in college basketball nowadays. You can have a very productive front court, but the more guards, the more shooters, spacers, and playmakers that you have on your roster, have on the floor, it is going to be the recipe for success. And that's what Indiana's trying to put together here. Now, obviously, we'll see how they all come together. But a lot of guys from 6'4" to 6'7", that's a good thing to have, especially when you have so much space to operate with all those guys being very good, very, very strong shooters. If they weren't shooters, right, and if they weren't playmakers, then this roster wouldn't make sense. But because they have that skill set, and the majority of these guys really do complement each other on paper, right? That's the key thing right now on paper, that you're probably set up for a much better, kind of consistent offensive flow every single possession, because you have so many different guys who can go there, be interchangeable, so many different rotations. It's just a matter of, how they all fit together throughout the rest of the summer and getting into the season. But you're not going to be stretched for players. You're not going to be stretched for different rotations. And I think that's the good thing in comparison to what, Indiana's had the last decade, where you only had maybe 2 or 3 guys deep at the guard position. You only had 1, maybe 2 true ball handlers, right? And you were very, very top heavy from a front court perspective that didn't have a lot of versatility. So you kind of break down all of that, reverse it, and go with a lot of versatility, a lot of depth at the guard positions, and maybe not as much depth in the front court, but you're able to offset that with the different skill sets that these guards and perimeter players are going to bring.
And the fact that he's playing through those championship finals, which I think is fine. I think that he'll get a ton out of that as a player, and that will only make him better. And that just makes me wonder all the more. While I've seen several years in a row, and it happened again this year with Malachi Moreno, that he couldn't even. He was only allowed to play in one of the two Indiana-Kentucky All-Star games, because his quote unquote responsibilities to Kentucky began that next day. I find that utterly ridiculous that he couldn't have played in a freaking all-star game. They've done that before, and it just blows my mind that you would take that away from somebody, although maybe it's not that big to him. Maybe I'm making it out to be bigger than it is, but it makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's all, every event, everything is different. I think obviously, right, with an international player playing, for a national team that he's already played for, right? He's not just like a back end of the rotation guy. He's a very pivotal piece to that U20 team. That means a heck of a lot more to those international players specifically, right? To play in those events, and especially when you've already said that you're going to be playing, make a commitment late here. Again, you're not seeing a lot of commitments for the upcoming season in June, right? Because most of the guys are already on campus, or they're maybe potentially playing for USA basketball when it is those type of summers. But outside of that, you really have everyone on campus already. So it seems to be quite a different type of event. But I mean, Malachi Moreno also was playing in USA basketball for the training camp this week. Tweaked his ankle a little bit, I think it was, but our friends at KSR had talked to him, and that he basically said that he just kind of wanted to shut it down, not try to make the team, and go get back on campus in Lexington and get ready for the season here. So, I mean, every player is going to have a different perspective on it, and I think that's a good thing, right? But yeah, I mean, certain ways that the schedule is put together limits a little bit of how the players can kind of be stretched to the different events that they want to play in.
Indiana recruiting has been extraordinarily busy with visit after visit. In addition to that, we had the Indiana team camps last weekend. A few players there that were being watched, none more than Jason Gardner Jr. I was standing next to Coach Darian DeVries a lot during any time that Fishers was playing. Coach DeVries was planted right there next to under the basket, and just leaning on the padded stander for there, and making sure Gardner saw him play. I don't see anybody having a shot at getting Jason Gardner away from Arizona, because his dad is an assistant coach there. But I guess there's always, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana's making it known that they want him there. They've been kind of front and center at every single event that he's been at, the coaches have been allowed to go to. Multiple coaches deep, right? We'll see it again this weekend, starting today at Charlie Hughes, where the Indiana coaches are expected to be at, and Darian DeVries will be there a couple days this weekend as well. So you'll see them watching Jason Gardner again. But he's a guy where, I don't necessarily think it's just a shoe-in to go to Arizona. I think Indiana is definitely a team that is right there. Obviously still a long ways to go in this recruitment, as just being a 2027, right? So has still some time left before he will make a decision. And it's not one that's probably going to come anytime soon. After you kind of get through this 2026 cycle, he's a top, 30 player in the country. He was a standout at the Pangos All-American camp a couple weeks ago. So, he's getting a lot of national recognition, as he should, because he's one of the most talented guards, and he's done so ever since his freshman year. So it'll be interesting to see where he lands up, but he's not going to have any trouble finding a spot. And I don't think it's going to be necessarily a true shoe-in just for Arizona.
Well, we'll certainly find out how that goes, but a lot going on this weekend. Let's take a break, and we'll talk about what to expect from the Charlie Hughes, and what else is going on with recruiting for Indiana basketball. Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com with us. And hey, congratulations on getting that exclusive interview with Alexa by the way, or Alexa Riskic. Great job on that. And that's the kind of coverage you get at thehoosier.com. That's why you should go sign up now. Why you can get it $1 for the first month, 50% off the first year. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Friday. Glad to have you along. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com with us as well. Big weekend up in the Carmel area as the Charlie Hughes basketball tournament going on. Lots of targets there that Indiana will be looking at, watching. Jason Gardner Jr. from Fisher's one of those we spoke about. You got Isaiah Hill from Pike High School, a 6'10" center. Indiana will be looking at as they've got a lot of centers on their radar. So that's not going to be, what you're seeing this year is not necessarily going to be the exact formula going through in the future, I don't believe.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. Isaiah Hill's one of these guys, though, specifically, to the in-state class here in 2027. Super long, super versatile, tremendous shot blocker, one of the best in the country so far in that 2027 class, leading the EYBL in blocks per game. So he's a guy who really is kind of one of those that you have to target and you have to go after hard, because you don't find that shot blocking ability anywhere. And it's not something that just kind of pops up out of nowhere. So he's a guy that you definitely have to prioritize, and being in your backyard, the Pike Center there. So it'll be good to, see how he gets through this kind of now new transition in the high school month here, where June is strictly kind of put in place for high schoolers to get viewed after a very, very successful first couple sessions on the Nike ULBL circuit. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out this weekend. But yeah, Jason Gardner, obviously a guy that we just talked about, who's going to be highly sought after. You have Landon Lampley, Caleb Kuhlman, Noah Washington, a couple 2028s there that Indiana's looking at. Noah Washington, a guy who.
How about Pike next year? I mean,
yeah.
They have to be a team to look out for. You've got Isaiah Hill at center at 6'10", and Landon Lampley, a 6'5" wing, who is also one of the best in the state. Pike is going to be pretty damn good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they have a really good roster, and it's going to be exciting to see them go through this summer now, with a lot of these guys now getting a lot of national recognition and at least regional recognition too. So see how they play together. But it's going to be a good time. Like I said, Darian DeVries is expected to be out this weekend. Drew Adams will likely be there. Nick Norton as well. So we'll get a lot of good FaceTime here with the Indiana coaches being, again, courtside, and more specifically, right, head coach Darian DeVries being courtside for a lot of these players and getting involved early. You have a couple other events going on out in DC, Philly, Kansas City as well, where the Indiana coaches will be at. Some obviously key targets that'll be playing in those events, again, at the high school level. And we have all that over at the Hoosier.com, where the coaches will be, what those schedules look like, and obviously have full coverage of all of that this week. And we'll be out starting today, and then through Sunday at some of those events too.
And then last week at the team camps, the only assistant coach that I didn't see, I saw there Drew Adams, and Kenny Johnson and Nick Norton. Didn't see Rod Clark, but that's because he was busy, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, they were. He's taken the charge and leading that Sammy Jackson recruitment. The 2026 guard is making his decision this upcoming week on Wednesday. Was on campus last weekend, so obviously a very, very busy week. I mean, they had a huge stretch of visits here with 3 over the last 5 days. So a very, very critical time, and closing in on potentially landing the first commit of the 2026 class. But Sammy Jackson goes to Texas this weekend. He's visited St. Joe's and visited VCU, and then obviously Indiana. This is going to come down to Indiana versus Texas. Indiana, did a very good job of doing what they had to do, answering all the key questions, laying out the vision of what their system looks like. Sammy Jackson, a 6'7" perimeter player, but a guy who's much better with the ball in his hands, a very good distributor. He's a guy who wants to play more at that point guard position. So it's all about how the system is going to be laid out for him, which I think will be the ultimate reason for him picking either Indiana or Texas. Both obviously have, with Darian DeVries, right, a system that has a lot of guards and a lot of playmakers. Texas, obviously under Sean Miller now, but his Xavier teams and even going back to his Arizona teams, right, have always had, very, very talented guard play as well, especially with Xavier here. Most recently with, 3 pretty good ball handlers and shooters on the floor at all times. So that's a critical recruitment that'll be ending first, and then going to Latrell Almond, top 25 forward who was on campus middle of the week. That is a recruitment that Indiana did a very good job of laying out what he can do at Indiana. The brand answering a lot of the core kind of staples of what he was looking for. Brought his entire family. This was a recruitment that Indiana was jumped in on very quickly with the Kenny Johnson connection. Rod Clark also recruited him a bit while he was in Tennessee. So the assistant coaches got heavily involved quite early in this, offered him in the first live evaluation period in May, got him to commit to a visit date right after that offer. And it's the only date that is currently on the schedule. LSU, Rutgers, Oklahoma State, the 3 other teams that are really in there right now. Alabama just offered, and then Kansas is another team that could potentially try to move in quickly. But Indiana's done a very good job in this recruitment in such a short period of time because of that, specifically Kenny Johnson connection, and then Rod Clark, obviously connection as well. So that is one where if you're able to land one of those 2 or even both of them to start here, that's a phenomenal way to get going in the 2026 class when you have a 4-star guard, a guy who's pegged to be a multi-year player. Obviously, with the transfer portal, right, multiple different factors can come into play, but a guy who could be the backbone of your backcourt here moving forward, and a very versatile player as well. And then Latrell Almond, a guy who is very, very perimeter oriented as a 4-man, can shoot the 3, can put the ball on the floor, has done a phenomenal job in what we've seen this spring and early part of the summer of being able to beat defenders off of the dribble. Has been a standout at the NBPA Top 100 camp, which is a very, very strong field every single year, which was 2 weeks ago. And it is now looking to, potentially make a decision here coming up, but we'll see kind of what that timeline looks like. We'll see if there are any visits that do come up here relatively soon. But Indiana is setting themselves up for success here early in the 2026 class. Luigi Siogo, 7'3" Italian center, was also on campus. That came out very quick. Obviously, an international guy. If he's going to be in the States, you want to take advantage of that. It's not easy to always get them over here when you want them. And he was visiting Purdue. Obviously, an easy trip to make it to Indiana. But there has been some whispers about him potentially going to 2025. He will, talking to multiple people, he will stay in the 2026 class. So that's something that Indiana's recruiting him for 2026. So he's not one of those potential big man names that could be joining in the 2025 class. At least, at this point, they're recruiting him for 2026.
For our Southern Indiana listeners, one of a player of note who is off into the future yet in the class of 2028, but getting lots of attention, Noah Washington, a 6'6" guard from New Albany. Of course, he's going to draw a lot of comparisons to Romeo Langford eventually. I haven't had that much or seen or heard of that much yet, but his only offer right now, Purdue. Of course, Purdue trying to get in early with him, but he seems like he's the real deal and going to be a player that develops into something that Indiana is going to be interested in as well. A little surprised they haven't gotten more involved there.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's 2028, right? So they're focused right now on 2026. They have seen him multiple times already. Multiple coaches. They'll see him again this weekend. And he's a guy obviously in state, so they have multiple different times that they're going to be able to see Noah Washington, at least over the next year, getting into the high school season as well. So I wouldn't be too worried. I expect Indiana to be pretty involved in that recruitment once we get to that point. Once we're talking about 2027 and 2028 kids from a intent perspective of looking to make a commitment. But yeah, as of right now, right there, their priorities are on the closing in on the 2026 class and really starting to prioritize a lot of those 2027 kids and making sure that they start getting some of these early offers out so they can start building those relationships. And I mean, you've seen it already with some of the 2027 offers that have been out, especially in the state. They want to make it known that they want the top players in Indiana to play at Indiana, and the 2027 and 2028 class definitely have some really talented top 100, top 150, very, very good, multi-year, even some potential, 1 or 2 year guys who should be coming up here over the next couple of years. And Indiana wants to obviously make sure that they do not leave their backyard.
Indiana also with a big visit earlier in the week. You were talking about the visits, but one of those was Latrell Almond. How did that visit go?
Yeah, no, I mean, it went very well. Like I said, they did a great job of laying out how they want their versatile forwards to play. And he's a guy who has a very versatile skill set, from his ability to shoot the ball, put the ball on the floor, play in the post, but he's not a traditional post up back to the basket guy. He's done a phenomenal job again with the relationship that Kenny Johnson has there, bringing that from the DMV area, bringing that to Indiana, and got Indiana involved right away with that recruitment. If you're looking at a couple schools, like I said, that are potentially schools to keep an eye out for, Bama, Alabama, and Kansas. We'll see if they make a run here at him. But outside of that, I mean, Oklahoma State is probably the other school that has some very good connections with an assistant coach, and then also Rutgers, I believe, was his first offer, so that's always going to hold some weight. And LSU's trying to kind of break in there, but I don't know truthfully how serious that interest is on both sides. So I think Kansas and Alabama, like I said, are the two that you have to keep an eye on. But Indiana's positioned themselves very, very well pre-visit, and then positioned themselves well post-visit with Latrell Almond.
Yeah, several offers out for Indiana, and we will keep up with it. I mean, I'm thinking like 26 offers right now out for Indiana over the various positions: point guard, center, forward, small forward, center, whatever you want to call it. But definitely with the offers out there, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And before we kind of jump on to the next topic here, I mean, Prince Alexander Moody, guy that we haven't really talked about a lot. The next visit, the last visit here this month, that'll be middle of next week when he'll be on campus. Another DMV guy, another Kenny Johnson connection. But Indiana feels, again, going pre-visit, right, feels very comfortable about where they're at in this recruitment. A guy that relationships matter. Relationships very much are a lot that have to do with assistant coaches and how they can, really get into recruitments and get in quickly and get in deep. And Kenny Johnson, it's a name that we continue to talk about. Obviously, Indiana fans know him very well. But his relationships in Virginia, DC, the Maryland area, right, the whole DMV area is something that is going to have Indiana deeply, deeply involved in a lot of East Coast recruitments for the majority of this tenure and this era. Another guy, Jordan Smith, top 5 guard in the class of 2026 out in DC. Another guy who is looking to make an Indiana visit. He told on Three's Jamie Shaw this week that he will definitely be taking a visit to Indiana. They're just looking at different dates. That's probably going to come in the fall, though. After Peach Jam, after you kind of get through the AAU season. So look for that, probably in September at some point when you kind of get that influx of additional visits during football season, once school's back, obviously in full swing, when you get a lot of those big time names on campus.
Yeah, and it's great for fans to get excited over the recruiting, because recruiting is without question going to take a big jump for Indiana under Darian DeVries and his staff. I'm more than confident of that because of the guys they're recruiting, how they're recruiting, and more importantly. But also, there's only so much excitement because the rest of the team has to be developed through the portal from now on. I mean, it's the recruiting, I think, is about a third of your roster each year, and then the other 2/3 are either guys that stayed or through the portal. So it'll be interesting to see how that mix continues, man. What is up next for you at thehoosier.com, where you guys have been killing it, by the way?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously we'll be out on the road starting today, covering the live evaluation period. So live notes there. Right now, we on the message boards we have full breakdown of where the Indiana staff will be this weekend. Some key targets to keep an eye on, and obviously football recruiting never stops as well. So Zach's been doing a tremendous job for us covering the football recruiting side of things, and has a lot of really good stuff coming up as well. A lot of visit recaps, offer recaps, looking at key targets here to wrap up the 2026 class. And then we'll obviously have a very important non-Indiana visitor this weekend, but Luke Fahey, the 4-star quarterback out of California, visiting Ohio State. The top target for Indiana right now, if he gets an Ohio State offer, that's going to kind of murky the waters a little bit, and we'll see what happens. But if he doesn't, and if he leaves Columbus without an offer, it looks like Indiana should be in a good spot. Never going to call it before any recruitment ends, but Stanford, the other school there. But a lot of talk is relying a little bit on this Ohio State visit. So critical couple days here coming up for the Indiana football side, and then we'll have obviously full coverage of that after that visit and where things stand, because likely a decision will come shortly after that, depending on what happens this weekend.
And in addition to that, you can get complete video breakdowns from Coach Griff on each Indiana commit as they come along up there. So something you don't get anywhere else as well. Man, great job again. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Jim. Have a good one.
You bet. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. Make sure you go subscribe now. Only $1 for the first month and 50% off the rest of the year. If you want to know what is going on, who's doing what, who's getting recruited, who is accepting, and all of that, the inside information as well, thehoosier.com has it. Hello, everyone. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you, as always, for listening to our content. But for more in-depth coverage on the Indiana Hoosiers football, basketball, and recruiting news, go to thehoosier.com on 3. Now with On 3 and great national writers like Ari Wasserman, Andy Staples, and Steve Wiltfong for football, Pete Nakos, J.B. Shaw, and Joe Tipton's constantly breaking stories on the basketball side. And the local coverage from Alec Lasley, Kyler Staley, and Zach Browning. You can catch something new every day at thehoosier.com. Go there. Sign up today.